Welcome back. I'm Chris Sikora, and I'm going to step you through exercise 7 in Creo Parametric 6.0. Today's exercise, we're going to take a look at some free-form type geometry. So initially when you see this and what's on the screen, it might not look free-form whatsoever. In fact, the concentric rings, those are very easy to put in for most users at this point. Years ago, I want to say it was like 1997, I was brought out to a company that made equipment for medical use, medical industry. And they had a little cooling fan, what they call a muffin fan, that was in the back of the machine, of the unit, and it would blow the hot air out. And they had a little grill just like this, so no one could accidentally stick their finger inside of it. And they called me out for, this was one of the questions they had, and they handed me this, and I'm like, okay, what's so hard about that? That doesn't look bad at all. They said, no, look carefully. Look at these the little screw pads. And I started to look at them. I said, oh my goodness, yeah, you're right. That's a three-dimensional guide curve. So that was the tricky part. So I went ahead and I built that. And then while we were at it, thought, well, go ahead and I'll build the rest of it too. I used to let students build the rest of the model, but I've seen so many different ways that they've done it, and most of them are not quite that efficient. So if you want to build it on your own, that's fine. They've all done them pretty much for a decent job, but I'm going to show you some techniques that might help accelerate this. In fact, if you look at the feature of the model tree right here, you'll see that I really only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 features really on the tree. Two of them are mirrors. And so we're going to see how to build that efficiently. But first we'll focus on this area, and then we'll do the rest, and I'll show you some tips and tricks for that, and then we'll get into the lab. So let's begin. Go to New, Part, and go ahead and label this E7, and hit OK. Now let's select the front plane and start a sketch. We're going to start off with the footpad, and we want to draw the wire from the top view, so like this view orientation, so that little hook that goes around. So let's replicate that. With a line, go ahead and draw a line right here, a short little one, and then go ahead and dimension it for scale. We'll just make it around 2 inches, and then use your refit to get that centered in the screen. And then you could go ahead, you could actually delete that dimension. So click on, actually hit escape, or middle click 2 times on your wheel. Click on the dimension, hit delete on your keyboard so it turns weak, because we don't really want that dimension just yet. We'll put in a different dimension. So zoom out a little bit or pan so that you can see this area here. And let's now go to the center and ends arc. Now the center and ends arc is a tricky one, and it's kind of hard to see on my screen, but you can see there's the point at the end of, or the vertex I should say, of the line. So I'm going to hover above it a little bit, click, and then connect down to it. Once I connect and I get that yellow dot, I'm going to click and drag it around counterclockwise till it's almost closed, but I'm leaving a little gap. Go ahead and click, and then middle click 2 times. Now let's change this dimension to 1.5, and let's then dimension the bottom vertex there to the center point of the arc. And then right over here to the right, middle click, and let's go ahead and make that 4 inches. Now we want to dimension the angle of this opening. So go to the centerline tool, and right on this vertex here, click, and then connect it to the center point of that arc, and middle click 2 times. Now it gave us this arc, angle dimension. That's not what we want. So let's go to the dimension tool, select the center line, and then select this vertical line to the right, and then get between the two and middle click. Go ahead and make that 15 degrees. So now we have our opening there. We're going to have to do that again, so remember that little trick later on down the road. Now let's go to the fillet tool, and we're going to use a sketch fillet, and then just right about here, click to right about there, click, and then middle click 2 times, and get this dimension out, and let's make that 1 inch. All right, there's the top of our wire. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Now you notice the dimensions are very large. I mean, this much bigger than this. I just made it so the dimensions were easy to remember. By the way, if you're wondering where these dimensions are and the training guide, remember you could always go to VERTAN as in Nancy UX1.com. And then once you get to that home page, you just go to Instructional Manuals and Creo Parametric 6.0. Click on that. If you're on an older version, you could go to any of these old versions or the legacy versions that are down there and pick it up from there. Okay, and once you get in there, then this is what it's going to look like. Oh, and let's just, it's around page 80. Okay, now that we have that, let's go ahead and select the right plane and start a sketch. Now it should orient itself to the right. If not, go ahead and go to your right view orientation. And that's right here. You just go to right if it didn't come up the way you'd expected. Now go to the line tool, and at the origin, click and drag up a short little line. Try not to have it snap to any of those points on that edge. So get it about midway between the 2 points. Click, drag an angled line, just like so. Click and just drag up a vertical line, just like that. Middle click 2 times. Now, this dimension is going to be 130 degrees right there. This dimension is going to be 1 inch, so from those 2 lines. And let's zoom out here a little bit. All right, as far as these, keep those weak because we're going to override those in a moment. Let's go to the fillet tool again and select from here to here, and then from here to here. Middle click, change one of those to 1 inch. And now rather than having the other one change to 1 inch, you could do this too. You could hit escape, go to equal, select this arc and that arc, and they'll make them both equal. Then only one dimension controls them both. All right, now we could go to the dimension tool. Go ahead and dimension this line right here to the right, and that's going to be 2.5. And actually, let me bring up the drawing here. And we're working on currently page 72. So this is rotated 90 degrees, so I hope that doesn't bother you. But 2.25, I put in 2.5 for the length of that. So 2.25. And this one went back to a weak dimension, so I'm going to click on it. Come on. Let me just middle click a couple times. There we go. I'm just going to lock it at 1 inch. All right, now this one is going to be 1.7. Now, if it didn't come up, you're going to have to just dimension it yourself. Go to the dimension tool, that center point of this arc, to the bottom down there in 1.7. Now we're ready. We could go ahead and hit OK, and we will proceed to use that. Now, the concept here, think of it this way, like we have our flat wire, which is this front view orientation. We have to bend it. And so we've actually bent the, we drew a little curve to indicate the bend. And we're going to extrude that out in both directions and basically use it as a tool to bend our wire onto it. So let's go now with that, this one selected, go to extrude. Now notice it's selected surface because it's an open contour, and that's fine. Surface will work just fine. You don't have to make a solid from this. Let's go to mid-plane and 4 inches and hit the green check. And so now you can see here, and let me go to shading with edges so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, here's our wire, and now we want to bend it across that. So here's how to do that. Go to project, go to references, and the chains. Go ahead and select the wire first, then click in the surfaces box here, and proceed to hold control as you select every one of those surface segments. So they should all turn green. Now click on direction reference, and you could select this surface again, but flip the direction. Now if you leave it flipped upward, it appears that it loses this line right here because it's on that same surface, so that's why you want to flip it down. Go ahead and hit OK. And now we could go ahead and hide the surface. You could click on the surface and find hide, and then we could actually click on this sketch and hide that as well. And now we're left with a 3D guide curve. Now go ahead and select the top plane. And actually don't select the top plane, I'm sorry. We're going to use the sweep tool next. So we go to sweep, and select near the end of this line right here, click. Now hopefully this purple arrow is on that end. If the purple arrow is over here, like this, make sure you find the one that's following the curve and click on the purple arrow so that it's on this side. Okay, once you have that, now go to Sketch, and what it does is it's creating a plane perpendicular to that curve to allow us to sketch our profile. So go to Circle, and right at that crosshairs, click and drag out a circle. And let's make it a 1/2 inch in diameter. Hit OK, and now rotate, and you'll see it's sweeping along the guide curve. So if you wanted it to be hollow tubing, we could have drawn a second circle for the ID and then dimensioned it, and we'd actually have it hollow, or we could shell it later on too. So this is kind of a neat little technique, and this imagine other uses for this. Let's just think about an automobile. How many exhaust systems for the air inlet, air intake? You could use this for wiring. You could use it for a lot of different things. And Creo does have its own wire harnessing software too, which is actually much easier than this. So if you're going to do wire harnessing, I'd recommend taking a look at that. But anyhow, let's go ahead and hit OK. So that's the hard part to this lesson. The rest of this I'm going to show you hopefully will give you some additional newfound skills that will make you look really good out there in industry and actually just make your job better. I say make you look really good in hopes that many of you, I know my students, are looking to get employed, and I want you to be very skilled at this software. Okay, now select the front plane, go to Sketch. Now if it's not vertical like this, remember you can just go right here and click on front. But I'm going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to draw now the extension of this wire here, and then we're going to go, let's flip this way. We're going to go here and around and hook it. And we're only going to draw, notice that it's a 90-degree elbow. We're going to only draw 45-degree arc off of that. Okay, so let's take a look here. Go to the line tool. Right off this bottom point, click, drag, and dimension that at 7 inches. Now go to the arc tools and hit tangent end and find the end point of that arc. Mine is very hard to see because of my line fonts I went with. I'm going to go ahead and click on this vertex. I'm going to go straight down and hook it to the left, but not a full 90 degrees, just like what I have, just a little bit like that, and then middle click. Change this to 1, oops, not 13, 1. And then we could go and use our little trick that we learned. Center line, right here to the center point, middle click, and look at that, it brings up our angle, make it 45. Now the reason it's going to be 45 is because we're going to, once we have this extended as a solid, we'll sweep it, we'll mirror it across, and that will make the other portion of the elbow. So with that being said, let's hit OK. And we can now go to sweep. This time the sweep is in the wrong side for sure, so click on the purple arrow, make sure it's coming off that end. Go to Sketch up here. And what I would recommend now is, I've tried this and I don't want to try it right now, but in some releases, maybe all of them, if you use the project tool, you'll have some issues, okay? It could be fixed, but it's a little tricky. The easiest thing I've found is just go to Circle and click on the center point and snap it to the outer edge of that circle, and then middle click twice. That way it's locked in and it will actually follow the same diameter of the wire all the way through this model. So let's go ahead and hit OK, and I'll rotate it. Look at that, it extended out and hit the green check. All right, now we can mirror that. So to mirror it, from the model tree, select the sweep 1 and the sweep 2, holding Control, go to mirror, and select this little end face, and it should mirror it all over to the other side. Now, for some reason, you're only getting half of that segment. It might be you use project. And for some reason, I think it's project as a chain. I can't remember, but it does some weird stuff. And you could fix it. It's just, I'm not going to go through. It's just easier just to draw the circle, match the edge. Okay, now let's go to the right plane and start a sketch. Actually, we could go to Revolve. We're going to create the concentric rings now. And so to do this, we're going to draw, there's 4 rings. We're going to draw little circles for each wire of that ring. So we're looking at it from this perspective now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to spread them out. So here's how. Start with your center line. Get to the bottom here, and when you get this circle, or this edge that highlights, you'll get the little yellow square in the middle. Click. Drag it horizontally off of that. You've just located with the center line the actual center of the model. So that's like dead center in there. See, because the radius in there, if you were to extend it, those would technically intersect, and a theoretical sharp corner might ensue. So that's what we've just found. So we found the center that we're going to revolve around. Now let's draw the circle. So go with the circle over here. Get between these 2 little bosses. Look carefully where I'm at. Click. Drag out a circle and get the equal symbol. See how I'm getting the equal symbol there? Notice lower left, it's highlighting the edge. It's found that same diameter. We want the wire to be the same throughout this entire model, so that's fine. Now this dimension should appear right here. Let's make it 0.49. Now I'm having it intersect in about 10,000ths of an inch. The reason for this, if you go tangent to that edge with that circle, Creo sometimes has issues with that. It's a 0 thickness connection point. Now in version 7, they have it where it actually looks at it as though they're multi-bodies, and it should have no problem with it. But this is version 6, so we can't do that yet. So we have to, I would recommend intersecting it, like welding it in a little bit. Okay. Now let's go to the circle tool and straight off vertical off that part, get the highlight, click and drag this out, make sure it's equal. Get one up here, drag it out, make sure it's equal. And one more, stay away from that line up there, drag it out, make sure it's equal. Let's go to dimension and let's start dimensioning these. So from the center line to the very first one, middle click, and that's going to be 1.25. And actually, let me verify that on the print here. Yep, 1.25. And then every subsequent circle will be 2.5 off the next one. So from here to here, that will be 2.5. From here to here, so center to center, middle click, 2.5, center to center, middle click, 2.5. And we could align these a little bit better. There we go. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and hit OK. Now it's going to revolve a full 360 by default. We don't want that just yet. Now, can you get away with doing it this way? Absolutely, and then you can pattern the other half around. But I'm going to show you a different technique. Instead, I want you to go to placement. Actually, go to options. And we have variable on. Go ahead and set it to 45 degrees. So that brings us to that one little corner there on the up top. Now the side 2, go to variable. And 180 minus 45 degrees equals 135. So let's, we could even type that in if you want to verify it. 180 divided by 2. I'm sorry, not divided by 2. Let me think. Minus 45. 135. So look at that. We have exactly 180 degrees of geometry now for the revolve. Hit OK. And now go ahead and select the sweep. Hold Control, select sweep 2. Hit the little arrow under mirror. Control, select sweep 1 and 2, and Control, select the revolve. Now, it seems to me like sometimes I've selected the mirror and I've been okay, and there's other times where maybe I haven't been. I don't really recall, but I just know when you actually select the features under the mirror, it seems to always work, regardless. Okay, now go to mirror and select one of the end faces here. And hit the green check. You're done. All right. So basically, there's our little model created with about 5 features. Not too bad. All right, let's take a look at the training guide. There's your, see, there's lab 3B here that you have to make. So last week, we actually made the cover plate for this. So now we're going to go ahead and make the socket cover here. All right, so let's download it, and then we could rotate it. I think page 80 something. '82. And then I'm just going to go over here, rotate counterclockwise. There we go. Okay, so we have a 3.5 by 1.75 block. Some four corners have 45-degree chamfers at 0.125. We have then the detail in the center. It's all shelled, and it's let's see, it's 0.125 thick from that point, and then on the other section, 0.125 again. So let's go ahead and build this. So we'll start with the basics: 3.5 and 1.75. So go to New, Part, and L7. Now it's called L7B. I used to have an A. I took it out. All right. Now I'm going to select the front plane. I'm going to go to Extrude. I'm going to use center rectangle. And then let's go ahead and make that, 1.75 and 3.5. And refit it. Okay, looking good here. Let's get those chamfers on. We could put them as a regular chamfer, or we can make sketch chamfers. So if you want, you know what, I'll just use a chamfer tool as a solid. That's fine. We'll do that later. Let's go and hit OK. And this is 0.125. All right, and we could put in the chamfer. And distance to distance at a 90-degree angle, if they're equal, is going to make it 45 degrees. So we could actually just make these 0.125. Select the four corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now select this face, go to Extrude, and we'll proceed to, let's draw some center lines here because we'll mirror this across. And now we can make a center rectangle and use the same trick we used last week. We start off with a center rectangle here, and it's going to be 0.846. Okay, so that was right here. And then 1.115. Boy, that seems awfully big. Let's see. 0.846. Maybe it's okay. All right, and then 0.305 off center. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put on the arc on the top of one of these. So we'll go to 3-point, click here, go across, and we don't want that to snap like that. Let's leave it alone, and then we'll put in our dimension, 0.745. Okay, and we'll mirror that across. So I'm going to select that. Go to Mirror, select the horizontal center line, and it's down below. Now to open this up, click Control on both of these lines and release Control, and then change them to Construction. There we go. If we want, we could lay these dimensions out a little bit better. Okay, and then we need to mirror that. We could, we'll put those cutouts in after we mirror this, after we extrude this. So to get this across, let's just click and drag a fence around it. Go to Mirror and select the vertical center line. Hit OK. And now we can extrude those, again, 0.125. Hit the green check. Now there's some chamfers that go on there, and the chamfer 0.05 by 45, just in those on those four edges. So 0.05 by 45. So go to chamfer, 0.05. We'll make it equal, so it just knows to get those in like that. And there's better strategies possibly than the way I'm doing it. Just be aware, this is just one technique. All right, now we could cut that hole in, go to extrude. I suppose I could have done it with the other features. That would have been more efficient. But again, 0.125. Just get it done though. Flip it and through all. All right, now we're going to shell it. And actually, let's see how. All right, it looks like maybe that through hole is put in after the shell because I don't see it on the section view. I think we would actually see a boss there. So I'm going to use the rollback bar here and drag it up above the extrude so that I can shell this. Let's just check that one more time. Okay. And the typical wall is 60 thousandths. So let's go to shell, 0.06, select this face. There we go. Now we could use the rollback bar, drag it down, our hole goes into place, and we're in good shape. All right, now those other features, select this face here, go to extrude. Let's just get it on one side here. We're not going to be able to mirror this. We're going to have to pattern it over. So let's take a careful look at what we got here. We have this boss and it's centered. It is 45 by 0.07, so 0.145, and then locate 0.43 off that. So let's draw in right about there. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I captured something else there. Let me get rid of that. I'm not sure what I locked into. Okay. All right, so we have 1.45, 1.43. 0.145. And then the radius is 0.075. So let's draw. You could go ahead and turn that to for construction. Go to tangent arc here, drag it around, let it snap like so. And let's see, I think because we have perpendicularity. Okay, oh, this needs to be 0.75, so let's see what we have here that we don't want. So 0.073, we want to change that. 0.145. Perpendicular. Perpendicular shouldn't matter, but let's get rid of this one for now. Delete it. And then 0.075. All right. Now let's get in some of the other geometries here. So this rectangle here, and then there's a bigger one below it. So we could go right here. And I'm not sure if those are going to line differently, so I'm trying to steer them clear from capturing any sort of relationships. So they're rather big right now, but once we go over here, we should be able to find it. I'm going to drag this over so I could actually look without having to toggle through. I'm going to drag it over my next screen. Okay, so the first one is 0.375. Oh, and it tied itself into that one for some strange reason. This, and then its dimension 0.7 off center. So from here to here, 0.7. And then it's 0.85 right here. Oops, 0.085. And then finally, 0.285 from here to here. Okay, now let's focus on this one. So this one is located 0.285, just like the other one, from here to here. And then it's 0.85 thickness again, right here. Oh, darn it. Let's hit undo for that one. That's too far out there. 0.0825. 0.085. We could have made it equal to that one if we knew it needed to be. That's okay. All right, and now we need to locate. It's 0.725 from center here. So from here to here. Whoops, make sure dimension tool is on. From here to here. 0.725. Okay, and last one is this length here. Needs to be 0.3. It got tied into equal distance there apparently. Let's see. Strange. This should be equal to parallel, constraint vertical, horizontal. Okay, let's see. I'm curious about that. Let's get rid of parallel. I don't know why it went with parallel, but I don't think that's the issue. It doesn't make any sense. Delete that and hit enter. Oh, this is supposed to be 0.3. Okay, and that's it. So apparently the parallel seemed to have been a little bit of an issue there. Okay, now that we have that, let's just cut it through. So we'll hit OK, flip the direction, remove material through all, hit OK. Now we'll pattern it, and we'll do a linear or directional pattern. Select this as the direction, flip the direction, and we need to, they're spread out 1.73 according to the print, 1.73. And hit OK. All right, and that completes that exercise. And let's just make sure, yeah, that's it. Okay, that completes that exercise. See you next week.